Hi, I'm Dr. Stephanie Marengo, co-author of the Family App series and the article Anatomy of an Injury, Piriformis Syndrome. I'm here to introduce the piriformis to you before my friend and colleague Matt McCulloch demonstrates the recommended exercises. As you likely know, the piriformis is a small muscle located in the gluteal region. It's considered one of the deep lateral rotators that acts on the hip, in addition to the gemelli, obturators, and quadratus femoris muscle. For our purposes, we're interested in the piriformis' relationship to the sciatic nerve. The sciatic nerve is the largest nerve in the body, and it typically courses just under the piriformis muscle and sometimes pierces directly through it. This means that when the piriformis is misused, overused, or both, it may hypertrophy and compress the nerve, leading to piriformis syndrome. The good news is that even though pain and diminished functionality are part of the syndrome, they are correctable through conservative treatment, which very much includes exercise. Recommended exercises for piriformis syndrome include proper biomechanics that act to balance and stabilize the overall pelvic region. Matt will now show you 3 of these exercises.
Hi, I'm Matt McCulloch, co-director of the Family Workshop. We will be covering exercise recommendations for piriformis syndrome. 3 of the exercises that we'll be using today will be hip adduction and internal rotation, supported hip extension, and pigeon pose. Today, Kelsey Hay will be joining me to demonstrate these exercises. Our first exercise that we'll be covering will be hip adduction and internal rotation. You're going to have your client lie on their side. For this exercise, you're going to need a TheraBand to create resistance. Remember, one of the exercise recommendations is to balance the agonist-antagonist relationship. You want to make sure that the hips are stacked. You're going to take the TheraBand and wrap it around the thigh to create that resistance, holding it from above. You can either kneel or you could actually stand as well. So from here, I'm going to have Kelsey, of course, cue to fire the abdominals, abduct her leg, and she's going to adduct the thigh and then internally rotate. Rotate back to a parallel position and then release the leg. Again, she'll adduct the leg and then internally rotate and then back to parallel. Always emphasizing the pelvic stability in neutral. Now, if your client wants to perform this exercise at home, they can substitute it with an inflated ball, place it in between their knees, similar setup position, in a neutral position. Your client will adduct the thigh and then internally rotate, back to parallel, and then release. Make sure, exhale, press down, internally rotate, and then back to parallel. You emphasize to your client to keep that neutral position. Next, we're going to move on to the supported hip extension. For this exercise, you're going to need a bolster. You can also use a yoga mat. We're going to place it underneath the pelvis. The purpose of this is to support the pelvis and prevent the client from extending their lower back while they extend the hip, which would cause the erectors to overfire. I'm actually going to have Kelsey slide back a little closer. Here you're going to cue your client to, of course, fire the abdominals. She's going to extend the hip, the glute, and the hamstring, and then release. Extending again, making sure that your client neither rotates nor hikes their hip. There's a modification that you could add to flex the knee and then extend the hip. Here we're really looking at proper biomechanics, which is definitely one of the exercise recommendations for piriformis syndrome. Extend the knee and then lower it. Our last exercise that we're going to cover today is pigeon pose. For this, I'm going to have Kelsey come up into a quadruped position. She'll be on all fours. Make sure they start with a neutral position. She's going to extend her leg behind her. From here, she's going to flex her knee, bring the leg in, internally rotate, externally rotate, and then walk the hands forward. So from here, there are 2 modifications. Your client could maintain this position, which is more extended, or you could have your client walk forward and release forward in a flex position if it's available to them. If there is hip or knee tightness and they need more support, you can have your client sit on a yoga block in this slightly extended position, or you can additionally add a larger prop such as the bolster. From here, I'm going to have Kelsey sit back in the child's pose if it's available to her. So the exercise recommendations that we covered today were hip adduction, internal rotation, also supported hip extension, and pigeon pose.
On behalf of the entire FAMI team, thank you for watching this video adjunct to the article, Anatomy of Injury, Piriformis Syndrome. If you would like more information on Piriformis Syndrome, please click on the link to the article. And be sure to stay tuned for other articles and videos in this series featuring rotator cuff injuries and ACL injuries.
If you would like additional injury and anatomy information from our team, check out the FAMI app series.